guys, welcome back. I know it has been quite some time since I have made a video. I was supposed to post one last week on Saturday as I usually do, but as you guys know, life can get pretty hectic sometimes, so I just really didn't have the time to film that for you. But as promised, I am going to be doing the review for you guys on all the makeup products that I got from the brand Arbonne. So for those of you who saw my last video, which was a makeup tutorial, I actually used quite a few products from the brand Arbonne, and I just wanted to say before going into this, I am not sponsored by the brand. I did get all of these products myself. They are all my own opinions, so just to let you guys know before we get started in the review. And for those of you who did not see the tutorial that I recently posted, I will leave a link for that in the description if you are interested in seeing how all of these products actually apply to the skin. Now, before I get started on the actual review of the products, I just wanted to give you guys a little background information on the brand in case there are some of you who are watching this video but you don't actually know who Arbonne is. So the brand has actually been around for over 35 years now, and they have offices completely worldwide, so this is totally accessible for basically anybody as far as I can tell. Also, all the products from the brand are cruelty-free, and a very large majority of them are vegan, which is awesome because I know nowadays that's something that's very, very important for a lot of people. And not only are they completely animal friendly, but they are also earth friendly, so they use a lot of botanically based ingredients, and from what I can tell and from what I have read, all of the packaging is earth friendly. So for today, I'm going to be reviewing a couple of makeup products that I got from the brand, but they do actually have other types of products within the brand. So they actually have makeup, skincare, bath and body, nutrition, and hair products, which is awesome that they have so many things. And one last fun fact about the brand is that Arbonne has actually been mentioned on the Vogue.com website. I believe it was on the front page, and I think they've been mentioned about 2 or 3 times. So I think that's really cool that they got to be mentioned on the Vogue website because that is just huge. So all of the products that I'm going to be telling you guys about today are all on my face right now. I'm wearing them all so you guys can see what they look like, and if you want to see how they apply, like I said, I will leave the video that I did a tutorial with all these products in the description down below. So the first product that I'm going to talk to you guys about today is a primer, and that is called the Arbonne Makeup Primer. Now with this you do get a full fluid ounce, which is about the same amount that you get with a typical foundation that you buy. For example, I have the Makeup Forever HD foundation, and that comes with a full fluid ounce, which also equals to 30 milliliters. So the applicator for this primer is a pump, which I love. I love when things like this and foundations, primers, things like that have pumps. It just makes it so much easier to control how much product that you're getting, and it's just so much more sanitary as well. And as for the formula of the primer, it is a silicone based primer, and I actually did a little bit of research, and in comparison to the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer, it is very, very similar in the way that the ingredients, there is a large amount of them that are the same. And I have actually had the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer before, so the first time that I applied the Arbonne Primer, I noticed a bunch of similarities, and that is why I did sort of a comparison in ingredients when I was doing my research. I will say that I don't think I am necessarily the biggest fan of a silicone-based primer, but this is one of their best sellers, and I know there is a lot of people out there who really like silicone-based primers, and I think one of the main reasons for that is because silicone primers are meant to sort of fill in fine lines and pores, which is something that I think everybody loves. So if you are someone who really likes primers like that, if you're a big fan of the Smashbox one, then I think that you would really like it. So I got this a couple weeks ago, and upon using it a bunch of times, I decided to try it out in the sense that I was going to prime half my face and not the other half. I did that about 3 separate times just to see the difference in how my makeup wears over the course of the day, and I definitely did notice a difference. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that the makeup applies that much better when you're in the application process of it, but as for longevity and wear time, I definitely think it makes a huge difference. Over the course of the day, about 6 to 8 hours later, I did notice that the makeup that was not primed was sort of wearing away and patching off a lot more than on the side that was primed. So I think that if you are looking for a primer that is silicone based and definitely works for longevity, then this is something that you guys would definitely be interested in. Alright, so moving on, we have the foundation, which is the Perfecting Liquid Foundation, and this has an SPF of 15. And like your typical foundation, this does come with a full 30 milliliters, or as some people would say, 1 fluid ounce. So it is the exact same size as the primer. Now, Arbonne does have a very large selection of colors that you can choose from for foundation. I personally picked the shade Porcelain, which from what I can tell is the second lightest shade within the range. I do believe that the one before Porcelain is Alabaster. Now, that might match me a little bit better in the winter when I'm super pale, but as for right now, it is summer. The Porcelain one matches me perfectly. At first, when deciding on the foundation shade, it was very stressful simply because this is an online store. There is no actual stores that you can physically walk into. So finding a foundation where the shade matches your skin tone simply based off of photos is actually quite difficult. Now, personally, when I am looking for a foundation, no matter what brand it is, no matter what kind of foundation it is, I typically go for the lightest shade within the range. But based off of the pictures that I have seen, and given the fact that I do know there is people more pale than I am, I simply deducted that way that I would get the second lightest shade, and it happens to be the perfect match for me. Now, one thing that I thought was really cool with this foundation is not only is it a pump, and like I said earlier, I love pumps for foundation and sort of liquid creamy products like that, is the pump actually sort of pushes the product up, so none of it actually gets left in the bottom or on the sides when you're using it. So by the time that you're finished with the tube, you have basically used every last drop of the foundation and you aren't wasting any of it, which I think is really, really great and innovative for something like this. And now some of you are probably laughing at me and saying, Sarah, I've seen foundations that do that before. Where have you been? But I honestly have never had a foundation that did that before, so I just think that's really, really cool that by the time I'm finished, I will have not wasted any product at all. As for coverage, this is definitely a medium to full coverage foundation. I only ever usually apply one layer of it, and I get pretty much almost full coverage with that because I don't really have too many issues that I need to cover with my skin, so I would never really go in with the second layer. But I definitely think given the formula, you could layer it and make it very, very full coverage, but I only need one layer to cover up everything that I need to cover up unless I'm going in with concealer for spots and dark circles and things like that. So basically what I mean to say with that is the coverage is very good and I like it a lot. And if you're curious if I really like it, if I would buy it again, would I recommend it to you guys, then my answer is definitely yes. I do really like this foundation. I like the coverage. I like how it looks when I'm done. I think it is sort of a demi-matte finish. It's definitely not luminous, but it's definitely not super matte. And that's something that I really like. So yes, I would definitely repurchase this. I really do like it and I would recommend it to you. Now next up we have a loose powder, and that is called the Setting Pretty Translucent Loose Powder, and this, just like the foundation, also has a SPF of 15. Now you do get a full 8.5 grams in this product, and if I'm comparing it to anything else, the NYX HD powder comes with 6 grams and the Cover FX powder comes with 10. So I think that 8.5 grams is actually a very decent amount of product, and I know it's definitely good for people who do baking and they use a lot of loose powder and they definitely don't want to go through a powder very quickly if it's expensive. Upon looking at the product, it does definitely look like it has a bit of a color to it, but after applying it, it definitely does not. It is completely translucent, and I would say that it is relatively finely milled, so it doesn't sort of settle into fine lines too terribly, and that's something that I really like. And the way that I personally use it is to dust it all over the face to set my foundation, as well as occasionally I use it to bake in the under eye area. I did not do that today. I did just dust it all over the face, but I have baked with it multiple times and I do really like the finish that it has once I have finished the rest of my makeup. So if you're asking me, do you like it? Would you recommend it to me? Is it something that you would repurchase, Sarah? Then the answer is totally yes, I definitely would. I think not only do you get so much product that you really even wouldn't have to repurchase it that often, but I do really like the finish that it gives once I've set my entire face and finished my makeup. I think everything looks just really, really nice and soft, and I would definitely recommend it to you guys if you are out there looking for a loose powder. And if you are looking for a loose powder but you don't want one that is translucent, they do actually have a bunch of loose powders with color to them that correspond with all of their different foundations. I did not pick one up, but if that is something that you are interested in, then definitely go and check that out. So next up we have a eye primer, and this is called the Prime and Proper Eye Makeup Primer. So basically it's just an eyeshadow base that you're going to apply before you do any of your eyeshadow. As for the amount that you do get 0.1 fluid ounces in it, which seems pretty small, but honestly, since you're only using it on your eyes, I don't really think that it's a huge deal being so small, because really, how often are you going to go through an entire tube of an eyeshadow primer? So the one thing I did notice is it does have a tint to it. So for me, the tint is basically the same color as my natural skin tone. So I don't really know how well that would work out for someone with a deeper skin tone, but I think that once it is blended out and the eyeshadow is applied, you really can't see the tint that much at all. Of course, I might not be the best person to ask about how it blends out, simply because it just blends into the same color that my foundation is. So I did the same thing with the eyeshadow primer as I did with the makeup primer, and that is applied it to only one eye and not the other one, just to see how long it wears and if the eyeshadows apply differently. And I did do this multiple times just to get a really solid opinion on this, and I do definitely believe that when it comes to applying the actual shadows, the pigmentation payoff is a lot better when you are using the primer. For example, when I was doing my eyeshadow, I noticed that the eye that was primed, I only had to go in with the shadow basically one time to get the proper pigmentation, but on the eye that I did not have the primer, I had to go in maybe 2, maybe 3 times to get the pigmentation to match exactly the same. So I definitely think that when it comes to the application and the way that the eyeshadow looks, the primer is definitely going to be really awesome and something that you would be into if that is what your main concern for an eyeshadow primer is. Now, as for longevity of the eyeshadow over the course of the day, like I said, about 6 to 8 hours, I don't necessarily know if I noticed a huge difference. At the same time though, I am not necessarily someone who uses eyeshadow primers and things like that on a day-to-day basis. I usually honestly forget to use them, so it's not something that's super important to me, I guess, for longevity, because I find my eyeshadow lasts exactly the time that I want it to. So I definitely think that the main thing about this eyeshadow primer that I love the most would be how the eyeshadows apply and the pigmentation payoff that you get when using the primer. Now, if you're asking me if I would repurchase this or recommend it to you guys, I would definitely recommend it, but I don't know that I would repurchase it, simply because, like I just said, I don't really remember to use an eyeshadow primer that often, and if I wanted to use an eyeshadow primer, I would probably go for something a little bit cheaper. So next up we have a mascara, and I actually ended up getting this mascara for free because there was a promotion going on that after a certain amount of dollars spent, you could go through a list of products and pick one of them to get for free. So I ended up picking the mascara, and this guy is called It's a Long Story Mascara. As for the amount that you do get 0.42 fluid ounces, which from what I can tell is average for a mascara. The one I regularly use is 0.44 fluid ounces, so not really a big change in the amount that you get there. As for the formula, this is a very wet formula from what I can tell, and I've used it multiple times over the past couple of weeks, and it doesn't seem to have dried out any, which I don't necessarily know if I'm a huge fan of, simply because when it comes to a mascara, I really do prefer it to have a more dry formula, and so when I apply it, it does dry faster. So another thing that I noticed is when you take it out of the tube, the wand is actually pretty long, and so I find that when you're applying it, it's a little bit awkward, at least for me, and it just makes me a little bit more prone to having some accidents and messing up with my mascara. For example, when you get it on your eyelid or on your nose, or you know the kind of things that happen when you make mistakes with mascara. So that's not necessarily something that I'm a big fan of either. And I know I just mentioned a couple of negatives, at least they're negatives for me, but a positive about this mascara is that it is very, very black. It's very pigmented, and it definitely does add more volume to the lashes. So if you're asking me if I would repurchase this or recommend it to you guys, my answer honestly is probably going to be no. I don't like to be very negative about things on my channel, just because I know people can get pretty angry over it, but this isn't necessarily something that I was totally in love with, so unfortunately no, I would not repurchase it. But on the upside, it was something that was free with my purchase, so I can't be totally mad about the fact that I don't like it. And just to quickly mention, even though I do feel a little bit negative about the mascara, that does not mean that I feel negative about the brand. I do actually really like the brand, and like I said earlier, I really liked the foundation and I really like the loose powder and would definitely repurchase those things. So this is not to say that I don't like the brand because I don't like the mascara, if that makes sense. So the last product today I will be telling you guys about is the blushes, and I actually picked up 2 because I really don't have a very large collection of blushes as it stands, and typically when I buy them I kind of go for the same colors, ones that I'm very comfortable with, such as peachy, sort of coral colors, but I really wanted to branch out and get some different shades so that I could do some different blushes with some different looks, because I know that it kind of gets boring when I'm constantly using things like Milani Luminoso. And that's not to say that I don't like Milani Luminoso. I love it and I use it pretty much every day, but I know some people can get really sick of that, seeing that in videos, and I really do like to try new things anyways. So the 2 colors I picked up are Dusty Rose and Merlot. So for the amount, you get a total of 4.5 grams, and like I said earlier, if we're comparing it to the Milani blush, then the Milani one comes with 3.5 grams. So the amount that you get in a blush isn't necessarily going to be a factor as to whether I like one or not, simply because I don't really go through blushes that often. I've only completely hit pan and finished an entire blush once in my life, so the amount that you get is cool that you get 4.5 grams, but it's not necessarily something that is going to really change if I like it a lot or if I don't like it a lot. So I did actually use both of the blushes today in the same way that I used them in the tutorial that I just previously did. So I used the darker shade Merlot as a sort of contour shade just underneath the cheeks, and then I used the lighter shade Dusty Rose sort of a little bit higher up and then on the apples of the cheeks. And I do really like the way that that looks, the way it turned out. I haven't been doing really heavy contouring lately anyways. Now that it's the summer, I just want to keep my makeup a little bit lighter when it comes to the face. So I think this is a really cool and fun way that you can use these blushes to sort of get a contour but also a blush, but in a different way. Now as for pigmentation, which is what I'm sure you guys are all wondering about, the pigmentation on these blushes is absolutely wonderful. I have definitely noticed upon all the times that I have used these blushes, which is quite a few at this point, that I definitely always have to knock off any excess product before applying the blush because they are so highly pigmented. So it's really a great thing that the pigmentation is awesome, because not only does that mean that you're not using as much of the product each time that you use it, but I just think having good pigmentation is just a positive thing in general when it comes to using makeup product. So if I was to try to describe the shades to you guys, I am so terrible at describing colors when it comes to really anything in life. Just colors are really hard for me to describe, but the shade Dusty Rose is kind of like a muted peach. It's kind of like a muted peach, but it does have a little bit of shimmer to it, which I really like. So when it comes to the shade Merlot, this is definitely going to be, I think, a deep pinky berry shade. And what's really cool about this, it might not pick up on camera, but it has a bit of a shift to it. So upon looking at it, sometimes it's a deeper berry and then other times it's sort of a deeper pink, if that makes any sense. Basically, it just has a little bit of sort of, I think the word is iridescence to it. It's really very pretty and I like it quite a lot, and I would definitely recommend these to you guys. So obviously that answers the question if I like it and if I would repurchase it or recommend it. The answer is yes, because I really do like them quite a lot and I would recommend them to you guys. I think the pigmentation is awesome. I think they look really nice once applied on the cheeks, and I just think that they're really good blushes in general. So that is it for all the products that I got from Arbonne, and I really hope that you guys appreciated this review video on all these products. If you were ever considering shopping from Arbonne, or if you had never heard of the brand before and maybe saw some products that you liked. So for those of you who made it to the end of this video, I did want to quickly mention before I say bye that I did get a couple of the skincare products from Arbonne as well. So I am in the process of trying those products out, seeing if I like them, seeing how they work, seeing if I see any results, things like that. You know, things that you would typically look for in trying out new skincare. So over the next couple of weeks, I will probably be posting a review video on the skincare products that I got, simply because it does take quite some time, I think a couple of weeks, to really see any results for things like this. So if that sounds like a video that you guys are interested in seeing, then definitely keep a lookout for that one in the future. And if you want to, you can subscribe to my channel, because then you'll be notified every time I post a new video. I do try to do a video every single Saturday, or at least once a week if I can't get it up by Saturday. I know I didn't post a video last Saturday, but I do actually have a 2-week break from school starting on Friday, so I will have a bunch of time to film a lot of videos for you guys, and so I will never miss another weekend. So that is it, you guys. I really hope that you liked this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you have any requests for videos I can do in the future, or even any questions regarding some of the things that I mentioned in today's video, do not forget that you guys can leave that in the comments down below. I would love to chat with you guys, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.